Hello everybody and welcome to Flock Talk. Today we are going to be starting a brand new series called Roll for Enrichment. How this works is I have created a bunch of different lists that span across a ton of different categories of different styles of enrichment. Every item on those lists has been numbered, and then Newt has been trained how to roll some dice, and whatever number that dice lands on will be the enrichment activity that we do for that video. What this means is that this activity is going to force me to come up with something new that I've never done before and find new creative ways to create dynamic new enrichment activities and ensure that I am creating a variety of enrichment by giving me a new random activity however often we decide to do this series. I'm hoping this will be a fun way to not only keep our enrichment routines more dynamic and interesting, but to get us being more creative and coming up with combinations of things that maybe we wouldn't have considered doing before, but were forced to do because the dice rolled and landed that way. Does this mean every activity is going to work out perfectly? Probably not. But does that mean that we're going to have a lot of fun and we're going to end up having to be creative and come up with new things and it's still going to be an enriching activity for our birds? Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. If you wanted to add an extra layer of fun to it before we start dice rolling, you could decide whether or not you are going to participate in this week's enrichment activity and then have to do whatever the dice decide to roll and have a bit more fun with enrichment that week. It's a brand new series, so I'm going to apologize in advance if there is any weirdness or clunkiness going on. We're going to be figuring out the kinks as we go along with this, so I am sorry if anything seems a little bit weird. And then this is a series that is going to be using a trained behavior, and animals can be unpredictable, and I'm not going to push my animals to do something they're not comfortable with. So if we do start this and then there's kind of a lot of weird cuts and a lot of weird edits, I promise I am not faking the dice rolls or having him re-roll just because it landed on something I didn't want. Odds are it's just because he wasn't comfortable and I needed to stop for the day, or he simply just kept rolling the dice outside of the frame. That will be the only reasons that there will be cuts in this clips. The ideal end goal for this series will be that I have him able to roll the dice for the entire segment and not have a ton of cuts in there, just that way it is clear that I'm not faking the rolls. But for the time being, there's probably going to be a few cuts, just that way you're not watching an hour of me trying to line everything up correctly, so that way Newt lands the dice in the correct spot. Alright, so got Mr. up on his perch here. The first thing we need to do is roll for a category. The categories are toys, food, perches, and social. So these are the different categories of enrichment we can provide. So I'm going to give him a 4-sided dice, let him roll it. Good boy! So he rolled a 3. So the third category there is perches. So whatever enrichment we are providing is going to be perch related. We have another 4 categories to go with. Can you get back up on your perch, please? Come up here. Thank you, sir. We have DIY, used perches, rotation, or a full reset of the entire room. So we're going to let him roll the 4-sided dice again. Good boy. And that was a 1. So we have to DIY a perch to some extent. Now in the DIY category, we have a couple more things to pick from here. So I don't have a coin for him to flip. So instead what we're just going to do is odds or evens. So I'm going to give him the D20 and we're going to let him roll. If it lands on an odd number, it's a 1, and if it's an even number, it'll be the 2. It landed on a 7. So that's going to be an odd number, which means that it's going to be a rope-related perch. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, hop up. Good boy. So we're going to have him roll one more time. This is to decide whether or not the perch needs to go in the cage or in the room. Good boy. So that was a 17, which is another odd number. So that has to be a rope perch that has to go into the cage. So the next category we have is out of 6. So it's going to be the type of perch that we're working with here. And our choices are something that swings, something that's really solid and stable, a ladder for climbing, a type of play stand, a more of a toy style perch, or a preener. So let's get him back up there and let's offer him the 6-sided dice this time. Can you grab that, buddy? Boy. Yes, good job. So you landed on number 4. So that is some kind of stand. So those are his choices. We have to make some sort of rope perch that can go in his cage but functions more as a play stand than just a perch on its own. So we're going to do some brainstorming. We're going to figure out how on earth we're going to fit all of those categories, and we're gonna make it happen. There's a spin before we go. Good man. All right, let's go make this happen. Okay, so first thing we gotta do is find all of our rope. Here is the rope bucket with a bunch of different types of rope, as well as the toy making string bag. And then I'm hoping you guys will agree with me in that seagrass mats count as being made of rope, because they are just seagrass string that's been pre-made into like a nut shape. So I think it counts. I'm gonna do it anyways. There's some rope balls. I don't think I have anything else super ropey. Yeah, I'm not gonna count that as rope. Ooh, that would be good though. I'm not gonna count it, but that would be a good idea because that's more made of palm leaves. We'll leave it at that for now. So there's the bulk of the things we're allowed to use. Everyone say hi to Yoshi. So we have to make a rope play gym that can go in a bird cage. Thankfully I have decently big bird cages, so I have like a good amount of space to work with. Thinking it would be pretty easy to use one of these mats as like a base for the play area. This one's all used. It's got some feathers and poop that I should have cleaned off of it. I really don't want to cut up this one. It's completely brand new, unless I did like a tunnel. But it's spring right now, and I feel like maybe that would be a bit of a hormonal disaster. So we'll start with this broken one. I'll clean it up. The only thing I wanted from here was these. Whether or not I can figure out how to incorporate them into a play gym, I'm not sure yet. And then we have a ton of different types of rope. I have sisal, I have coconut rope, I have paper, and then I have leather cording. Whether or not that counts as rope is debatable. We'll get some sisal rope, and then we have this pre-made rope net to play with. Let's quickly give this a clean, and then I'll come back and hopefully I'll have an idea when I come back. It is clean, and I still don't have an idea. I could cut it that way. Maybe. I don't hate that idea. It's still borderline on whether or not that would be a big hormonal stimulant. I didn't say anything to you guys at all. I'm thinking about making it like a dome. So it's not fully encapsulated like a hut would be, or like a, yeah, like a happy hut, you know? But it's still got a little bit of a roof, because I don't want to do it too basic, because I could just cut a bunch of cubes and, you know, tie them together and then have like platforms like that, and then it would count as being a play gym, but I just feel like that's a little too simple, and that's something you could find anywhere, which is kind of not the point of this. The point of this is to be a bit more creative, force myself to come up with something new and not something I've already done. If I go through all of this and then you guys say that seagrass mats don't count as being made of like rope material, I'm gonna be so upset. I'm thinking I could do something like that. And then as long as this is kind of big and open enough, then it might not create kind of that hormonal reaction that I would get as if I were to do this as a enclosed, dark little like cubby hole. I'm thinking this might be open enough to avoid that problem. And if I hang it kind of loosely in the middle of the cage and not flat against a wall, then it'll make it more light and open, and we can dodge that problem. Because I feel like if I just did this and, you know, tied strings on each corner, I've done it before, and I don't want to do it again. So we're gonna do something different, and hopefully it'll work. So let's cut these, so that way it can kind of slot into the grid. As the paper cording is really nice for toys because it doesn't fray, and it always has like a nice sharp edge, so it's easy to thread into the tiny, tiny holes you have for toy parts. Okay, start on this easy end, and then we will tie ourselves a simple knot. And then I'll do the same thing to the further side, so that way it stops popping out. Not sure how well this one's gonna last because Newt loves seagrass and he will just tear through it. He just gets in like these moods where he decides a certain toy part needs to die, and he will absolutely obliterate it overnight. So hopefully, you know, the amount of effort I put in here won't immediately die. Okay, one side's attached. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Last one. It is attached. Now what? So I think we're just gonna go from the middle. I think it'll be sturdy enough, and maybe it rocking and moving around a bunch will kind of deter that whole breeding hormone situation that I'm worried about. So we're gonna use the leather for this. I don't know if there's like a secret hack on how to tie leather, because this is why I don't work with it super often, is I can never get the knots to actually be like tight and secure. And I'm sure I could Google like fancy knots or whatever, but they're always just more complicated than they need to be. And I'm sure, you know, if I practiced, I'd get better at it, but it's one of those skills that I just haven't bothered to practice. Okay, it holds. Now, I have an idea to make this more of like a play system. Since right now it's just kind of like a hut, we're gonna add like a swing or something like that off the bottom of it. Or it could be chains of toys. If you find like a hanging play gym, they're usually just messes of like perches. But if you get like a tabletop play gym, they usually have a swing, some hooks to hang your toys off of. Sometimes they come with toys already there. I'm thinking I'm gonna attach a bunch of toy elements into this, and I'm going to hang something from the bottom of it. Probably a little swing here, and then we can do toys off the edge. What am I going to make the swing out of? I have more leather. I could do some cocoa rope, and then I don't have to fight with leather anymore. I like that idea. I think this is one of those things I bought not realizing how thick it was. There we go. I feel like because the main base structure is mostly rope, it still qualifies as a rope play set, but because it is a play set, it does kind of indicate that it's going to have toy parts, you know, be a part of it. And I do want to make something my birds are actually going to use. I feel like if I don't put anything other than rope on this, it's just going to eventually get boring. Because if I leave it like that with nothing, you know, whereas if I put some toy parts on it, it might make it more fun. Are we okay with that idea? I'm not going to bend the rules on day one, so we're going to leave it. We're going to make it as much of just rope as is physically possible. Bunch of different kinds of rope. I will find a way to make this fun and enriching without having to bend the rules. So this would be different if it was... Ooh, my medication. This would be different if it was like a live stream. Because then, you know, if we bend the rules, we're doing it together. Oh my lord. We have a little swing. Now it looks even more like a hat. We can fix this. It's okay. I have some rope balls. They should go on the rope play set. Question is, how should they go on the rope play set? I'm thinking hanging is probably the best bet. I think this stuff teeters the line between being rope and not being rope, because it is a string of material that could be used to weave. Because as it stands, this, I suppose, is already a hanging playset, right? I could technically call it done here. So we're basically just kind of decking it out and trying to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more interesting. So we're going to take my thin string, I'm going to stick it underneath one of these. Here we go. And I'm going to tie it to my kind of chain of woven material. Yeah, I think we'll do there. Cut. That one. I should probably do it centered on both sides, hey, just so this thing doesn't tip all over the place. I was gonna stick it on the opposite corners, but I think that might make my life a little more difficult in the long run. Okay, one done. Let's do the same thing to the other one. There we go. All right, it's looking a little less like a hat. What if I just weave this in here? Add a little more fun texture to the hat. I'm going to weave this so that way I almost end up with like a ladder. So I'm going to go from the inside, and then I'm going to go across, let's go across two, and then I'll come up the next one, and then over, skipping one. So we end up with more of a pattern there. I don't want to make it too dark because I don't want them to think this is like a nesting spot, but I think it's just going to add a little bit more fun texture to this and make it a little bit more interesting than me having just stuck a seagrass mat on a wall and called it done. And then I'll just keep repeating that pattern down the wall. And then I'm not even really going to worry about tying this off because I kind of want the birds to pull it out. So I just copied that weaving pattern on the other side. Now it's a little more visually interesting, and we have rope or string being more of a main enrichment element and design element. Oh my god, this leather is so tight. There, oh jeez. It still feels really empty to me, but that's okay because it's a play stand and they're usually pretty empty, and then you add toys to it to make it exciting. Okay? So I actually think I'm gonna call this done for the play stand. You can put this in a cage. It's a thing that your birds can sit on. It adds a bunch of surface area for you to attach more toys to. It swings. It is wobbly and has some fun ways of throwing off balance because of those two balls. I think that this counts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get this set up in their cage, but I'm also going to set it up like I would any other play stand. So I'm going to deck it out with toys and enrichment items and ways that I would use this play stand to make it more your own. So like you would purchase it like this at the store, and then you would add your own toys and your treats and your stuff to it. So for my own personal preference, I have a ton of this springtime crinkle paper left over. I'm going to stuff this into the grid as best as I can, and then I would be able to sprinkle treats and stuff in here. It kind of fills in those holes so little seeds or tiny pellets don't really fall through all that much. So I could sprinkle their meals in this sort of grass, this papery grass. The first customization, tidy this up, and then I'm going to find some toy parts that I would like to incorporate into this. Here's my bags of kind of natural looking toy parts. So we're just going to kind of grab some and have some fun. These are really fun because you could also stuff them with that crinkle paper, and if your bird just likes pulling the crinkly paper out, or you can stick jumbo pellets inside of these, or you can stick millet inside of these. And it's just a fun way to be able to hide food around the place that isn't always the same sort of presentation and isn't always the same location. This can be an easy way for them to start to learn how to forage elsewhere without it having to be overly complicated. And they can still see it, they can easily access it, but they're just an easy way to help teach a new bird how to start exploring for food. I feel like I would stick this out the bottom, right in the middle of the swing maybe. I don't hate that. This one has a little heart. I don't think I can do anything with that right this second. These spirals can be another one. They can seal the treats a little bit more, but they're still easy to access and through the hole, but because you can't really see out the side of them, it kind of helps transfer your bird from this wider spiral to this tighter one. And because these start off small and get bigger, you can actually stick them underneath. I really love using them for foraging. And you can also just wedge treats in the spring so they're clearly visible. If you've got a bird that struggles and needs a little extra help learning that the different objects can hold treats as well. Needs something else. I have a ring. No. Ooh, I have this flower thing. It's like a little flower in the garden, and then I can stick pellets in that. I kind of wouldn't mind incorporating the Planet Pleasures. Spiral them up this thing. Then I don't have to pull out more string. And then it adds a little bit of color to the bottom and balances everything a little bit more. And we'll do the same thing to this side. I think we're gonna leave it like this for now. There's a ton of different foraging opportunities. They can do like ground foraging through the grass here. They can have really easy foraging in the springs, slightly more difficult foraging in the cones. And then I would consider this to be pretty difficult because it's almost got the roof blocking it. And I can put the jumbo pellets in there. We've got crunchy things, we've got hard things, we've got soft things they can just throw. We have stuff throwing off their balance and making it wobble a little bit. And I'm hoping that we have made this open enough, and if I hang it wide open in the middle of the cage and not against a wall, it'll keep the hormone situation down. And then we've got some leather texture stuff that'll be good for climbing, but it'll also hopefully start introducing them to textures that I don't use as often. And they're not tied down, so they can just pull it and get it out and have some fun unwinding and unraveling. And we'll see if they enjoy it. Okay, I lied. I added some cork wood to it as well. Now I'm done with it. Everyone say goodbye to the cute little puppy. And we're gonna go put this in the bird room now. you. So handsome. He's gonna hang out kind of sideways. There you go. So that will do it from me here today. I do think this worked out pretty well. I'm still a little bit worried about whether or not that's going to be a little too cave-like and potentially cause some hormone problems, but we will keep an eye. Worst case scenario, I can take it out of their cage and give it to them next winter or something instead. But overall, it really did force me to think and create something I may not have created otherwise, and the birds do seem to enjoy it. So I'm excited for the way this turned out. And I will finish this off by saying that this is a brand new series and I'm making up everything on these lists by myself and have no idea if everything's gonna work out perfectly. So if you see a category that's in here that you think maybe has some stuff that wasn't on it, but you want to see included in those lists, or maybe you have an idea of a whole new category to include, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I can adjust the list as necessary as we go through this series. But please let me know what you think of the series, if you want it to continue, what things you think should change or adjust, and we will go forwards from there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really look forward to hearing all of your suggestions in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye! You know it's time to record, right, buddy? You had all day to take your lunch break. Now is your lunch break? You don't care what I need? Yeah? Sounds about right, huh? Okay, you enjoy your lunch.